So I fully believe as a knitter that you reserve the right to change your mind about your project at any given time. Do you like the yarn but not the pattern? Tear it out and try again. Like the pattern but not the yarn? Go into your stash and find a new yarn to use. Have a skill that you're just not loving or a stitch pattern that's not working for you? You can change your mind. You reserve that right, and you don't have to feel guilty about abandoning a project at all. That's what I'm trying to tell myself right now because I'm faced with a little bit of a dilemma. Now, I just came off of a week of whips where I had a bunch of whips, current whips, not things that have been, they have been lingering. But there are things that I wanted to really get back into. They had all gotten to a point where I had gotten stuck for whatever reason, and I spent a week getting them unstuck. There's only one active whip that I didn't touch at all last week, and that was my Snowdrop scarf that I was making with my Dragon Horde Advent yarn from this past year. Now, I love the yarn, and I love the pattern. This is what I have done. So, oh, it's so windy, guys. I'm sorry, it's so windy, but I can't change that. This is what it looks like so far. The colors are gorgeous, the yarn is gorgeous, the pattern is a fun make, but it's not doing it justice. So you can see that obviously the colors are not a fade, but the pattern has a fade to it. It's not looking too bad right now, but as the colors change, I'm not sure that I'm going to continue to like those fading together when the Advent itself is not a fade pattern. My other issue is that take a look at the pattern piece. So it's basically garter stitch. And then when you get to these like pattern sections, I don't know if you can see that, there's a reverse stockinette section with a stockinette like snowdrop pattern. Now the snowdrop pattern is really pretty, but having the dark colors and the variegated yarn, it's not doing it any justice. Like this bottom one, you can't even see that it exists at all. You can hardly see the one that's in the purple. And I just don't know if it's worth it to make this entire scarf and then not be able to see the pattern work at all. That just seems silly to me. So I feel like the two are not compatible. The pattern is lovely, the yarn is lovely, they just don't work together. So I think what I'm going to do is tear it out and try again. Now it's a little tricky because I've already used two of the colors, and so they're going to be like two separate balls of yarn, but it's going to be fine. I'm not going to let that stop me. Now the first thing that I did, I was curious about what the rest of the Advent looked like because I couldn't really remember. I'd opened it a while ago, and if you saw my Vlogmas, you would know that the yarns came in like paper bags that were numbered, and so I couldn't see them. So what I did was I strung them all up like little fishes in order. This is color, I have 3 already in the wrap. This is color number 4, and then it goes through to color number 24 on the other side. So as you can see, the colors stay really dark, saturated, variegated. They're very pretty, but at no point in this color progression are you going to be able to see that snowdrop pattern. So I think changing up the pattern is going to be the right choice. And because this doesn't fade at all, I'm thinking that whatever pattern I choose is going to need to have a color block sort of pattern. Because again, it fades and it blends, but it's not, I don't know, it's not what I want for this. And so I went through my Advent pattern bundle on Ravelry. And what I was looking for was a pattern that had bold stripes, not melding of color, and that was tricky because actually most of my patterns I have saved on there have some sort of melding. I also decided that I did not want to do it at a DK weight, and so all of my DK patterns got crossed off the list. I also decided that anything crocheted was off of the list. I had thought about even doing like blanket squares, like that would make a really pretty blanket, but oh gosh, we're blowing away again. I didn't really want to buy extra yarn to make a full-size blanket, and 24 minis is just not the size of a blanket that I would use on a regular basis, and I didn't want to make something that was not going to get used because I really like these yarns. So I crossed anything crocheted, anything blankety, those are off the list. I then had a bunch where they're like, I don't want to say prettier wraps, that like insults everything else, but like more complicated, more patterned sorts of shawls and wraps, like Dust of Snow, or the Adventurer's Scarf, or the Sleigh All Day. I really like those patterns, and they would work well for blocks of color. But because these are so dark and they're so variegated, I feel like you'd spend all this time working on the patterning, and just like the snowdrop, you wouldn't actually be able to see what was going on. I also considered the traveler's poncho because I think having like an oversized sweater sort of thing would be really, really comfortable for these cooler spring nights or when we get back into the fall. But you do need another 100-gram skein. I don't really have anything in my stash, I don't think, that would pair super well with these particular colors, and I only have one of them, so I just wasn't feeling that one either. And so I've come down to two, I think, maybe. So one of them is the Advent Scarf by Emma Carter. This one caught my eye last Advent season because it's just simple blocks of color knit around in a circle to make a scarf. And most of the time that would not be something that I would go for because I like fades and I like things with more patterning in them. But this is a case where I don't want either of those, and so it made it back on my list. The other thing that is kind of stopping me from doing that is the fact that Natalie from Nitty Natty, just started her own Advent scarf. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be like copycat, right? But this might be my best choice. However, even having something that plain does kind of, like, I like to have something with a little bit more interest in it. Like, it doesn't have to be a ton of interest, but I like a little interest. And so the other one that was on my list is the Unicorn Stripes scarf. And I think you can probably join it into a cowl as well. I can't remember from the description. But basically, this pattern is written for the Madeline Tosh unicorn tails. And you need 30 tails at 14 grams each, which I don't have 30, but these are 20 gram. And so if I just do like a few more rows, it should work out to be the same length and not be an issue. And what I really like about this one is that it's also knit in the round, but it's chevrons. And so that way I get a little bit of visual interest while still going around in circles. So I'm not 100% sure which one I'm going to pick. Probably going to go with one of those two though. Oh my gosh, words are really hard tonight. Just because I want a simple project that will showcase the yarns, have lots of colors, and be something that I can work on. I don't know if you can hear me, the wind is so bad. And something that I can work on to go in meetings at night without having to worry about bringing a ton of tools with me or having to stop and measure or look at a pattern or anything like that. So I'm going to go and tear out what I've done so far and think about what pattern is going to be best. So now that we're not blowing away, I wanted to update you on my project decision. So as much as I really, really, really wanted to do the unicorn tails scarf because I love the chevrons, I decided that working on skills was probably a better use of, I don't want to say use of time, but like if I'm going to cast on a project, it can serve multi-purposes. And so I ended up going with the Advent Scarf by Emma Carter. Wha-bam, that's what I have done so far. And I picked it because it starts out with Magic Loop. And if you've ever heard me talk about it before, I hate Magic Loop with a fiery passion. I just don't like it. So I decided that I needed to confront my demons and do Magic Loop. Because this project, I mean, maybe there's a way you could do it, but you can't really do it on double pointed or on a circular needle until you get to a certain point. Again, you probably could figure out a way, but it's going to be a struggle bus. Magic Loop is really the way to go. So as much as I hated it, I decided I needed to practice. So first of all, this whole thing starts off with a Judy's Magic Cast-On, which you usually use for like toe-up socks. And so that way you're not dealing with having to like graft anything or provisional cast-ons or whatever. You just start with this clean like bottom. Mine is not perfect. You can kind of see it from each side. Do you see how those stitches are like ever so slightly elongated along my cast-on? And you can also see it on the inside as well. Where'd it go? Yeah, see how we're not wanting to focus, but do you see how right there, like they're not sitting quite right? We don't want to focus, but you get the picture. Anyway, the plus side is that for this particular project, even though they're elongated and not quite perfect, you can't really tell because it pretty much creates like a turning row at the bottom. And so it still sits really nice and crisp and flat, even though it's not perfect. Now, I think I can go in there with like a darning needle and kind of tug on the stitches a little bit to better distribute it, because it's really just this section like in the middle. It's not quite so much that way over on the ends. And so I think I can distribute that to make it a little bit cleaner. The part that I am most proud about, one of the reasons why I hate Magic Loop, in the past when I've tried it, I could never get rid of the ladder going up the side. Like, it just drove me nuts, and I like quit after a very short amount. I gotta tell you, my side is absolutely perfect. It is pristine, the corners are closed and sharp, and there is nary a ladder to be seen on either side. So super excited about the way that came out. Not having any sort of stitch pattern is really showing off how gorgeous this yarn is, and it's going to take up most of the mini skein. I have this much left of this particular one for two reasons. This is really technically my beginning of round right here, and I tried to get one more round out of it, and I made it down one side. I maybe possibly could have made it back up the other side, but it would have been cutting it really close, and I was worried that if any of the mini skeins, like if this was slightly longer than the other ones, or I had one that was slightly shorter, then I would be a round off on my other one. So I figured sacrifice just a little bit of yarn for a peace of mind. It was going to be just fine. Now, of course, too, I do have the cast-on yarn as well, so I can probably get one more round out of like my main colors, but we'll figure that out later. That's not going to be that big of a deal at all. I'm getting ready to switch over to circulars in the round. This has taken me a little while to get the first color all finished, but I'm thinking once I get to just going around in circles without having to deal with the magic loop, which I still hate, but I now know I can do it, so I'm more confident even though my love has not grown. I think if I just put it like on a 16-inch needle and go around in circles, it's going to be super. Sorry guys, had to sneeze there. Pollen here is horrific. Welcome to Virginia. But anyway, I think it's gonna be super fast once I get it just in the round, going around in circles. So super excited about that. Because I'm getting ready to start a new color, I figured now would be a good time to switch out the needles, and I wanted to show you before I got started on that. So anyway, oh, the other thing I'm loving about this is the fact that all of the ends are gonna be hidden on the inside. I hate weaving in ends. And I think that's one of the reasons why I've been like avoiding using my advent calendars, because some of them I am very excited about, but it's a lot of ends to weave in. And so people who design patterns specifically for like minis or advents, if you could do a few more things that are in the round where everything is just tucked in the inside, I'd really appreciate you. Thank you. I appreciate your efforts. So anyway, that's what we're getting started on so far, and I cannot wait until get into our second color. Now that I have my scarf on the circular needles, it is going so much faster. I got all of this right here, this new color joined in and done yesterday. So happy with that. Now you can't really see it too well right here. Probably when I get a color that has more contrast between the two, we'll see what it actually looks like and determine if that's what I like or not. But instead of just changing the color and going around like regular like, I did knit, slip with yarn and back, knit, slip with yarn and back, because the colors aren't a fade. They're not necessarily related to each other. And so I didn't want a pattern where I had like fade rows. Like that's one of the things I wasn't too keen on doing the snowdrop scarf or snowdrop wrap or whatever it's called with this particular yarn set. But at the same time, I wasn't sure if I wanted like necessarily like really clean color breaks. I thought that maybe like melding them together would look better. And so I'm hoping that that kind of knit slip sort of pattern will give me the like toothy edge that I want without it being like too fadey. I don't know. We'll find out. The next color is that bright blue, so that will pop against this. And I still haven't decided if I want to rearrange the colors or not. I kind of lean toward no, but then like I'm looking at three that are like very close in depth right next to each other. But at the same time, if it's like, you know, close in shade, color, depth, whatever, and then like a pop, like that might be fun. I don't know. But I am going to change up my organization for this project just a smidge. So I showed you before that I had kind of done a fishing line for the yarn, right? to put it in order so I could see all the colors next to each other. But as soon as I snip this string, because when I've done this before, I've put like a light bulb marker on the end so I could like take it on and off. I just knotted it this time because I was in a rush and didn't really care. I just wanted to see the colors. But I have my Starlight Fade box that I'm obviously not using anymore because I finished that project. And I still have obviously all of the like little boxes inside. So I think what I'm gonna do is cut the strings and then put all of the little mini skeins inside of here. It's fantastically low profile, so it's like, oh my gosh, I can't even get close again. It's gonna be one of those days, guys, I'm telling you. So it's a little bit wider, but it's flatter than the other box that it actually came in. And so this is gonna stack and store really, really well on the road or in my barn or wherever I want to keep it. And then a lot of times what I'll do is I'll pull out just like whatever the next couple of colors I need and stick it into my project bag. And that way I'm not carrying around like the entire 24 set with me at all times. But that'll keep them organized, keep them in order, and I can always change my mind about the order later. But so I think today we're gonna go ahead and sit down and put all these in the box. So now that my Advent scarf is well on its way, I'm kind of looking forward to my general rest of spring knitting goals and plans. I don't like to like write down anything too specific just because if I miss a deadline, like I feel bad about it, or I try to like really crunch to hit that deadline when it's really just knitting and crochet and it's not that serious. But I want to make sure that I'm progressing in the right direction. Now I'm really excited about being able to start getting some of these skeins of yarn out of stash. What I'm doing though in my mindset though is that yarn is not officially out of stash until I have finished a project, because I know myself, and if I get too excited about it, I'm going to be like, I'm going to cast on all the projects, and I'll have like 50 half-started projects and be like, look, there's no yarn in stash, and I'll have absolutely no finished projects. So to keep myself accountable, that yarn is not used until the project is finished, and then we'll talk more about that later when we actually get some more things off the hook and off the needles. Now with that Advent scarf being on the needles now, and I'm loving the way that it's going, I think going forward this year that I should always have some sort of Advent project on the needles or on the hook. We looked at the inventory. We know we have several Advent calendar projects still sitting out there, including at least one that has a blanket's worth of yarn with it. And so I think that by only having one Advent project at a time, where I'm dealing with all of those little tiny mini skeins and ends and blah, right? That it's not going to be too overwhelming. But at the same time, by always having one on the go, then I'll actually be progressing through it. Now, I don't necessarily have any goals of like completely zeroing out all of my Advent calendars by the end of the year, because that's a lot of knitting. It's a lot of knitting. But if I can at least make progress, like that would make me really, really happy. But those projects, again, dealing with all the mini skeins, can get quite large. And so I think at the same time, I always want to have one skein project on the needle or hook. Right now, that is my sock, right? So this is the Archivist. You've seen this before. I have done maybe a couple more rows since you've seen this last. It has not grown a ton, but obviously it's a single skein. I mean, I have the minis for the contrast color, but that we're not getting that specific, right? It's really a sock is a single skein project. I'm so close to being at the end, right? I just have like half a foot and a toe left. I don't want to cast on any more single skein projects until this sock is done. Now this sock is also driving me nuts. The 2x2 rib is killing me. I hate the 2x2 rib. And I actually saw a pattern the other day and I was like, ooh, that's cute. And then I was like, not all over rib. No more, no more. So I'm not super keen on finishing this sock and then immediately casting on the second sock of the pair. I'm just not feeling it. I wanted to sit and hibernate for a little bit. I don't think my gauge on this project is going to change all that much over time. I'm pretty tight when I'm on this type of needle, especially the size of needle. So I'm not worried about that. So I think I will probably wait until sock week in July to cast on the other sock. And then that hopefully will get me off of Sock Island in a matter of a week. So I think that sounds like a really good plan, and it would let me cast on a new project that I'm more excited about, while still having a plan for this one in the future. But I still have to finish that foot in that toe, so I'm not casting on a new one until this one is finished. But what about a big project? So right now I have what I would consider 2 big projects on the go. One of them is my blanket project, which a separate video about that is going to be coming out. I was hoping to have it finished by today, but alas, I fell a little bit behind. It is a lot of crocheting, so I've got a little bit more work to do on that. And then I also have a garment. So I'm still working on that Austera cardigan, and I have not made any more progress on it. I can't even figure out which way it goes. Right, so this is the back panel, and then this is that sleeve. The thing that has me paused right now is the fact that the gauge for this back panel and the gauge for my sleeve is so far different. I was knitting this one like really tightly, and then this one has loosened up so much. I think it's just because, I think I told you this before, I've changed up how I do the pattern. So when I'm doing the knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl, on the back, I was like, I guess I was throwing at that point in time, right? And so it was like really tight between the needles. Whereas this one, I was picking, and when I was doing the knit, purl, I was twisting the purl stitches so it was faster, and then I would just untwist it on the other side when I knit across. But that means that my gauge was a lot more relaxed, and so my fabric is a lot stretchier and a lot more open. And if you guys remember too, this back panel measured up like 2 inches too short, so I know that this has got to be like too tight. On the one hand, I want to keep going with it and just like knock it out because I have done so much of it, but in my heart of hearts, I know that if I keep going, this back panel is not going to end up right. And when I start going like the rest of the back, you're gonna see a distinct difference between this really tight back panel and the rest of the sweater. And even though it's on the back, I'm not gonna like it, and I know that. I love the yarn and I love the pattern. I just don't love that my tension has changed between the 2 pieces. And so I think it's in my best interest to go ahead and frog this, put the yarn away for a little while, and then cast it on again closer to the fall. I think that's the right decision, and I think that's what I'm going to go with. But since that blanket is soon to be done, and I'm going to frog this garment, I feel like I need another large project on the go. We're getting into the hot season, and so I'm not really keen on starting a new blanket right away, especially since my other 2 blanket quantities are not yet caked up. They're still in skein form. So I think my better bet is to cast on something like spring or summer weight as a garment. Now, one of the things that I really want is a tank top. I do not like this whole like cropped fashion. I was really excited when like the empire waist, like long flowy tunic, like those are sort of my look. But so many of the cute patterns coming out now are like boxy, which I love, go for that, right? But then they're cropped, and I'm not a cropped person. I don't like cropped. But you don't want to necessarily take like those boxy looks and just like lengthen them too much, because then like you look like you're wearing a potato sack. So I'm thinking, how cute would it be to have like a little tank top that was a little bit longer, right? That I could wear underneath these little cropped doodads. So I'd have like 2 like layered knit pieces that would look really good together, but like one would be longer and one would be like the cropped fat. So anyway, so I'd really like a tank top, but looking at my list of things that I have in my stash, I really need at least 2, possibly 3 skeins for a tank top, depending on the style and how long I wanted it, or how like fitted or boxy or whatever I wanted that tank top to look. So I don't really have anything in my stash right now that's like 2 skein neutral enough for like the tank top look that I'm going for. It'd be even nice to have maybe like some plant-based fibers in it, so that way it was more of like a drapey, not clingy, you know. I don't know, I'm still thinking about it. So I think I'll save the tank top for closer to summer. A couple of reasons. Number one, I don't have any yarn in my stash I could pull out for that project right now. But also, we're getting really close to the Dogwood Fiber Trail, which is coming up at kind of early to mid-April, maybe like April 10th-ish. I can't remember off the top of my head. But if you go on their website, it'll have all of the yarn stores listed. I think there's actually 9 this year instead of the usual 7. So that should be a lot of fun. But I'm thinking if I wait and have Tank Top at the back of my mind for that, or we also have Maryland Sheep and Wool coming up at the beginning of May, so that's another place I could look for tank top yarn. So I don't want to look at that direction. Instead, I'm thinking like a nice t-shirt would be the way to go. And I do have plenty of options for t-shirts in the yarn stash. So to get inspiration for my t-shirt cast on, I went first to the inventory that I took in my notebook. I'm not married to anything that's in there, right? So if I have yarn that's like put together in a set, I don't actually have to use it as part of the set. I could break it up, use it for a different project if I want to still make a t-shirt out of it, but I don't like that pattern necessarily anymore. Or if there's a different pattern that catches my eye, I can change it up. So I'm looking more at the inventory list as inspiration and a way to see what all I have without having to pull out all of my tubs of yarn in kind of a quick, convenient fashion. So looking at that list, I had 3 sets of yarn that were already set aside for something in the t-shirt range. And I think all 3 of those sets would still really make great t-shirts, whether or not I go with the pattern I already had picked out in the end or not. So I decided to start there. The first set that I pulled out is for the V-neck tee. I'm pretty sure that's what it's called. I didn't have it written in my notebook for whatever reason. And you can do this t-shirt in just one color, or there's a 3-color fade or a 5-color fade. I really wanted to do kind of the fade look. I thought that would be fun, but the 3 just didn't, it was too blocky for me. I liked the 5 fade better, even though you end up with a lot of leftover yarn at the end. But that means you have plenty of leftovers to make something else. So I wasn't too upset. The colors I had picked out from that, I had gotten a while ago, I think from Maryland Sheep and Wool, from Miss Babs. And this is kind of the set that I'm looking at. I know I'm kind of in the shade right now, so if I don't know if you can see it super well, but basically kind of I'm thinking start at the top with this really nice kind of deep plummy color. This is Miss Babs Yummy 2-ply, which is a 100% superwash merino with 400 yards to 110 grams. Oh, that's interesting. I thought it looked a little plumpy. Anyway, so this is a 110 gram skein, which is really interesting. You don't often see that, but probably to make sure you got at least 400 yards in it. That's interesting. That's really interesting. But this color is Wolfsbane. And then I was going to fade it down the line. I think my next color was supposed to be Autumn Toad Lily from SAF 2020. So I think that was a show colorway that they had left over. And then we have Earl Grey. And then I can't, which one came next? Was it the blue or the gray? I think it's the blue that came next, which is Mariposa. Mariposa, you know what I'm saying. And then ending with the green, which is Mother Earth. And I think that is just a super pretty fade. The downside of this is that it is still in skein form and it hasn't been caked up yet. So I would actually have to cake said yarn. So I'm not convinced quite yet, but I still love these colors. Still totally think I would love a t-shirt out of these, just maybe not right this second. Second option on the list was the Salty Air Tee. And I have the yarn from that from 29 Bridges. This is in the colorway Pink Peppercorn. So it's like this really pretty, like pinky, orangey, rusty, I don't know, sort of color, but it's really, really nice. I thought that would make a cute t-shirt. I have a total of 4 skeins of this. I could have maybe possibly gotten away with 2 skeins, but again, I like the longer look rather than the shorter, kind of more cropped look. And so I decided to go the next size up and have enough to make it as long as I wanted. So I have 3 skeins of these already caked up. And then I have a 4th skein, the one that you just saw. It's in a different dye lot though, so it doesn't quite match the other 3. So I think this will probably end up just getting sucked back into stash as a single skein, which is fine. The 3 should be more than enough for a t-shirt of whatever size I want. This is organic wool in linen, and it's just a single. 400 yards to 100 grams, and it's 70% organic wool and 30% linen. So I love the idea of having that linen in a t-shirt. Plus I love the fact that this t-shirt just got like a little small sleeve on it. It's got a nice like lace pattern up at the top. So that's definitely on the list. Oh my gosh, I realized I actually have 4. I don't know how my other one wasn't on my inventory list. I didn't grab that yarn, but I'm not gonna squeeze my way back into the shed to go pull it out because I don't know if it's already, I don't think it's caked up. I think that's why it wasn't in the other container. I think it's still in skein form like the Miss Babs. I cannot remember for the life of me the name of the pattern or who makes it, but I'll go ahead and pop up a picture and the name over on the side. I have, I think, 3 or 4 skeins of fiber optics, merino, cashmere, nylon in a fingering weight in a really pretty like fuchsia sort of color. I love how classy this t-shirt looks. It's got the little stripes of lace work going down it, plus a slightly longer sleeve, which I think would be really great for, you know, wearing to work or in the office. And it's already a slightly boxier, slightly longer look to it, which I really like that body style and shaping. So it's classy, it's got a little bit of interest with the lace work. That one's also really high on my list, but it's also hasn't been caked up yet. And I don't know where it is because I just went through both bins and I didn't see it, but I'm pretty sure it's because it's still in skein form and hasn't been caked up. So I guess I had 4 t-shirts on my to make pile. That means I have 1 left. So I've also been really interested in patterns lately that combine crochet and knitting, especially as I've been getting better at my crochet skills. And so Tanis Fiber Arts has a lot of patterns that combine the two together. And the one that I really like right now is the Getty tee. It has these cute little like granny squares. Sorry, it's windy out here in the field. It has the cute little granny squares up on the shoulders, and then the rest of the t-shirt is knit. At the time when I got the yarn for this pattern, I was really not feeling like getting a bunch of mini skeins. I couldn't find a small mini skein set that had like the right colors that I really liked in it. And I'm also not super keen on weaving in ends, even though there's just a few granny squares, I could have survived it. But instead, I ended up getting this yarn. I don't know how well you can see it in this lighting, but this is from, pull the tag out. So this is from Lily's Fiber Works, and it's from the SwizersFibermill.com. I think they have 2 brands kind of together. I think one is like the parents and one is the daughter perhaps. But this is 100% superwash merino DK, 230 yards, and it's ever so slightly color shifting. Can you see that? So I think it would be really cool if I use this for my granny squares, and then that way like the color would shift naturally and I wouldn't have to weave in like 10,000 ends. Looking at it now, it looks like the color changes are really, really long. So it might be one of those cases where like each granny square is a different color. I don't know. We'll take a look at it. If we don't like it, then we can always find some not granny squares. I could always find some mini skeins. Plenty of those floating around somewhere. And then, really intrigued by the yarn I got for the body of it. And this is from Upland Fiber Co. This is their Mohair DK. I do not like mohair. You know, every once in a while I go on a kick where I'm like, ooh, mohair. And then I get it and I'm like, what was I thinking? I hate mohair. But this is actually a mohair blend. Where does it have? It's 70% American merino and 30% American mohair. But it doesn't feel like mohair. Like it does have, I don't know if you can see that at all. Like it has a little bit of a halo from the mohair, but like it's not, I don't know, it doesn't make me want to tear my skin off, at least not just touching it. So I don't know, I'm really intrigued by it. Like it's really smooth. I don't know. I'm just really, really curious about this yarn. And also I like the fact that, as much as I hate to say it, mohair is really strong. And so having a merino that doesn't have nylon in it, by adding mohair to it, it's stronger than just the merino on its own without having to use something like a nylon. So intriguing to the extreme. So that's basically what those 2 colors look like next to each other. So it's not like super high contrast, but It's a little bit of visual interest, which I love. So I have 1 for the shoulders, and then I have 3 of the DK for the main sweater. So I think the winner is going to have to be the Getty tee. I'm really interested in the crochet combined with the knit right now. I'm really intrigued by using this mohair blend yarn that I've never used before, and I'm so lazy. It's already caked up and it's in a DK weight, which means it's gonna work up faster than one of the fingering weight versions. So I think this is the kit I'm gonna set aside, and this will be our next cast on as soon as I get the other sweater frogged and my blanket all finished up. So that leaves for spring the Advent scarf as my Advent project, my sock as my one skein project until I get that finished, and then I can switch it out for a different one skein project. I don't want to commit to that yet because my mood might change by the time I'm ready for it. Oh, don't fall over again. And then we'll have a big knit on the needle, which is going to be my Getty tee as soon as I'm finished with my blanket. And that sounds really doable over the next couple of months. Like, I'm pretty sure it's not going to take both April and May to finish up the t-shirt and the sock. So I'm pretty sure in that amount of time, we'll be able to start another big project and another single skein project. I don't anticipate also being able to finish the Advent scarf. I feel like that would be a lot of knitting in just 2 months, but we'll see how far we can get. So we'll have to take this and we'll have to go swatch it up and get ready to cast on. So I may or may not have gotten a little too overexcited with swatching for the Getty tee and ended up just doing all of the squares for the shoulders. So that took me a couple of tries. The first square that I did with the prescribed hook came out way too small. So I ended up going up a hook size and then also loosening my tension just a smidge. And now I am spot on for what the pattern was calling for gauge wise. It's really neat how the pattern works. So for the smallest sizes, you're doing 4 total squares, 2 on each side of the smaller granny square pattern. Then you go up to the size that I'm making, which I think is a size 5. And you do the 4 squares, but you do it in a larger granny square. And then when you go up again, you do 6 total squares, but they're the smaller size. And then the largest size, you're doing 6 squares in the larger size. So it's really neat how they adjust the sizing to work for everybody. And so the proportions are going to look great no matter what your body size is, which I think is absolutely fantastic. Now, my squares didn't come out exactly as I had visualized. Like in my head, I was hoping the colors would transition a little faster and a little more dramatically. They did not. It is a really pretty, this is terrible lighting right now. I don't know what is going on with the sun, but it is this really pretty like ombre fade. Like how cute is that? And so the debate I'm having now is, do I keep them like in color order and like have it fade across the shoulders, or do I mix it up and do like, it would be those two and those two, and do like the more opposite colors together? I don't know. I kind of like the fade. I also have a little bit more yarn left. So if I wanted to make it a little bit more dramatic, I could maybe even make a square from the middle and then do like this one, and then pick whatever my favorite was out of these two, because those are pretty close in color. So I have options. So I'm going to keep these 4 for right now. I have this ball of yarn left, and we'll see what I decide later. But I'm loving the way this is coming out. Now I just need to get my needles organized and swatch for the body. So I couldn't help it, guys, and I kept going yesterday. And I sewed my squares together. I ended up going for the ombre look. I really, really like this yarn. This yarn is gorgeous. Like it's smooth and silky and has great structure to it. Like this yarn is great. If I were to do this top again, I don't think this is what I would pick for my granny squares. I just don't know that it's the right look. I think it's gonna look great with my main color though, so we are gonna keep on keeping with it because that was the original plan. I did try a few different joins before I decided on which one I actually liked. I don't know how well you can see it, but I went with an invisible join. And because I was lazy about weaving in ends, I had the beginning, or I guess the end of the square where the tails were. I put them together, which meant that they were like slightly offset. And then I used the one tail to sew in one direction, the other tail to sew in the other direction. And then that way I didn't have any extra tails to weave in, which was perfect. So I've got them all woven in on the back. Again, I don't usually cut my tails off until everything is blocked. That just makes sure that I like the way everything looks and the tails are nice and secure, but everything is woven in on both sets. But you can't just stop there, right? So I've got my crochet gauge swatched, right? I swatched it all the way, but then I needed an actual swatch for the rest of the sweater. So I cast on for that too. Oh my gosh. So yes, this is the world's like smallest swatch, but I was really excited and I had like a set amount of time to work, and I just decided I would make it as big as I could in that amount of time, and then I was binding off and I was done. So your gauge a lot of times is different flat versus in the round because the way you purl can throw things off. So I swatched in the round, which basically I just knit across, and then instead of flipping it over and purling across the back, I slid everything down to the end of my needle again, and then just wrapped the yarn like around the back, leaving enough room that the front of the swatch would still lay flat when I blocked it, right? And then that way you can also leave this shorter and then keep going. And then when you go to block it, you can cut through it so it lays flat. However, by leaving everything in the round, if you need to tear out the swatch to use it in your project, you don't have 10,000 ends. So I really like doing it this way. And so that's what it ended up like. My gauge is spot on. I thought the way it felt when I was soaking it, I thought that it was gonna like block out to be too big, but it worked out really, really well. This fabric is absolutely fantastic. I feel like you can feel the mohair a little bit, like it feels like a toothy wool. So I think if you're sensitive and you're like really not a mohair person, like really, really not a mohair person, this might not be the base for you. But like it doesn't, I don't know. I would say it doesn't feel like mohair, but like, I don't know, it's weird. I can't describe it, but I'm really excited to have a shirt out of it. And I was worried that having a DK weight t-shirt was gonna be like really hot and sweaty. I think it'll be really great for like transitional weather. We'll have to wait and see if we can wear it in like the dead of summer, but like everything is super hot in the dead of summer, so I don't know. It would also, especially with the way like the drop shoulders work, the saddle shoulders work, putting a long sleeve t-shirt under it in like the colder months, I think would work really well too. But my swatch is done, gauge is spot on, and so I am literally ready to just pick up. Look how pretty that is. I love that color combination. Anyway, I'm literally ready to pick up and cast on, but I'm not allowed to until I finish this stupid blanket. So the next time I see you guys, this blanket is going to be finished. See you next time.